Hey, everybody, welcome to the Former Athlete Society. As always, I'm Adam Ringler, and it's a Sunday, and I just wanted to jump in and discuss some of the things that I've been thinking about over the course of the weekend, right? So, this is not meant to substitute our Tuesday accountability call. It's not to substitute our question and answer session that we have on Thursday. It's not even a substitute for some of the micro lessons that we typically do. This is just me jumping in and just wanting to have this conversation on video rather than having it permeate in my mind. Because when I talk to my wife about this, she's like, Adam, like that's strength coach stuff. Just let it be, right? But for me, this is what I live with, right? I have to exercise these thoughts in some ways. And this is the medium that I end up doing it. Because if I don't do it here, I blog about it at my website, adamringler.com. I share it on socials. Nonetheless, it's just easier for me to say these things, right? So, nonetheless, I wanted to talk about some things that I've been obviously thinking about. You know, like I'm 39, so I'm getting a little bit older. I had a friend of mine that we were discussing. He's picking running back up. He's doing whatever, it doesn't matter. More long distance running. And I'm like, okay, whatever, my friend, go for it. Wakes up this morning. He's like, man, my plantar fasciitis is killing me. And this is something I hear all the time, right? Is that you want to start to do an activity. So you go out and you do it at intensities or durations that you can't handle for whatever reason, because there wasn't a preparatory component to the beginning of that task, and now you are absolutely destroyed. If you're 19, 18, 17, you probably can get away with this, right? But this individual that I was having this conversation with, he's probably 35, 36, I'm 39, so not a spring chicken by any stretch of the imagination, and because of which he wakes up and he's destroyed. So nonetheless, there's some things I want to talk about with that. There's some things I want to talk about as far as nutritionally, as far as things we can do to mitigate maybe some of the soreness, waking up. But nonetheless, I'll get into all of that things, right? So what happens when we push too hard, right? Like what is the common things, right? I already discussed that story as far as my friend in running, but I often think like some of the most common culprits of post-exercise pain, when the intensification process is too much. Patellar tendonitis is certainly one. Achilles flare-up, which is something we have to be aware of, the older athlete. If you're doing any type of throwing, like listen, I went out in my backyard here. We have this football. My daughter loves to throw the football around, right? And she's like, further, right? She's pretending she's Travis Hunter. I'm just setting back and I'm launching this thing, right? I was like, honey, like at some point you need to get in a little bit closer. Why? Because I don't throw a football. I don't throw a baseball or softball, right? So, you know, as the time duration of the session got longer, as the distances in which I was having to throw this football got further, I'm setting myself up for failure at some point with my right shoulder if I'm just constantly launching that ball. Right? It was just an impromptu, hey, can we throw the football around? Sure. Right? So I'm not ever preparing to throw it. Now, I think there's some level of preparatory exercises, like I bench, I shoulder press, I do back, I do shoulder work in the weight room, all of those things. But, you know, like if you're picking up the ball and you're just launching it, this is why guys do long toss. This is why, you know, throwers start in and progressively work their way back. There's a progression to do these things. So shoulder irritations is something I see a lot of. Now, these aren't injuries that happen because of bad movement or biomechanics or anything like that. They're just simply from loading tissues that aren't ready. So if you know that you're going to go for a run, how, from a preparatory standpoint, can you get set up for success in running, right? So it could be short to long, it could be low intensity to high intensity, it could be some level of microdosing of those things throughout the day. So I don't know. I often say you're not out of shape, you're just sort of underprepared for those things. And that's the distinction that most former athletes miss. I'm not in playing shape. I'm not in running shape. I'm not in throwing shape. I'm not in football shape, whatever it might be. No, man, you're just underprepared for those tasks. That is task specific, like preparedness. That's fitness. That's what fitness is. So we really need to make sure that if there's things that you're working towards or things that you're going to do in competition or in practice or during training or during recreational activity or whatever it might be, that we are at least having a thread of preparatory work, right? So a lot of the times the former athletes that reach back out to me, whether it's in our school group or elsewhere, right, they have sort of this unique blind spot, if you will, in that they still remember being elite, right? So they try to match their old volumes or their old intensities right away. They're like, dude, I was all conference. What do you mean? I'm going to go up, I'm going to pick the ball up, and I'm going to ball out. And it's like, you're not 19 anymore. You're now 28. There's a whole level of preparedness that you have to work in because your tissues are older, your body is older, right? Your brain, your mentality is still a young pup dog, right? But your body is like an older, old yeller that's, so you got to be smart about these things. That's all I'm trying to say. The tissues haven't kept up. All right, this is the time. It's coffee break. Sponsored by Death Wish Coffee. No, it's not sponsored by Death Wish Coffee. So, things I want to kind of go into off the top end. So this conversation was in the top of my head. Friend, plantar fasciitis, it's killing him, right? Maybe went too hard, too soon, too fast, right? And this is a random aside, but the 10% rule is generally a good sport science adage. You could agree, you could disagree, right? We could talk about acute chronic workload ratios or exponentially weighted moving averages, all of these things as far as from an injury predictiveness, whatever, right? It still helps practitioners identify, are we doing too much, too soon, too fast, right? So, I still think there's merit into some of those things as far as balancing. Do we have a 10% increase in loading, in intensities, in whatever we might be doing to help combat too hard, too fast, too soon? So, other thing I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit. So, that got my head spinning a little bit as far as like, all right, Adam, if we can't do those things, right? If we, like for me in the instance of throwing a football, my friend who went out and did the run and now his plantar fasciitis is what it is, right? How can we try to fix that? How do we correct that? What are some solutions to those things? So, obviously one of the first things that come to my mind is like, why not isometrics? Why don't we focus on isometrics first, right? So, things like from a knee, right? We talked about some of the most common sort of tendonitis culprits, right? Patella tendonitis, Achilles flare-up, shoulder irritations, holding a position, like a long duration isometric, a wall sit, and a split squat position under tension. I think of like your FRC cars type of movement, where we're going through largest range of motions. So why wouldn't isometric help in these cases, right? So increased tendon stiffness for sure, right? They help your nervous system regain control over some of the end range positions, the FRC camp, functional range conditioning. Sorry. So where would you use these? Like maybe use wall sits, right? Like if you're preparing to go and play a pickup basketball game and that you're being tapped in, like, hey man, like, can you play? We got pickup basketball on Saturday. It's Thursday. Maybe on Thursday you're doing some split squat isos. You're doing some wall sit isos. or Spanish squats, like in preparatory of the basketball game or pickup game that you're doing. Maybe you're doing some isometric calf raises for Achilles complex. So I'm a bit like spring loaded or spring ankle spring loaded position 1 and 2, right? Good idea. Long, up on your toes, calf raises for duration, right? Now maybe you're not chasing intensity. Maybe you have a basic intensity, but you're chasing duration. That's a solid strategy of building some of this tissue robustness or tissue ability to take on that contractile force, but in a way so that just doesn't destroy you, right? I remember I was flying back from, it doesn't matter where it was with our basketball team. There's a podcast that came out. Now, again, like if you look at my early career in strength conditioning, I was, this author, Tim Ferriss, love him, right? 4-hour work week. Obviously, strength coaches, no 4-hour work weeks. We're talking of probably like 80-hour work weeks. But the premise is still the same. I think a lot of people are like, hey, Adam, that's bull, right? Like none of this is applicable. But automation, right? How do you utilize automations and systems and things like that to make a work week that would otherwise be 40 hours be 4 hours, right? Whether it's virtual assistants or AI bots or coding or automative systems, right? All of these things can improve your things. Nonetheless, right? Tim Ferriss podcast had on Keith Barr, right? And Keith, amazing researcher, but particularly when it comes to tendons, right? And the rehabilitation of tendons and the prevention of tendinopathies and things like that. Talked about these long duration hangs, right? Particularly for this world class. I'm looking at the top of my screen like I'm hanging on to the top of it, right here. World class climbers. And they were talking about doing these long duration isometric hangs. I think they were called, don't quote me, and I'm sure somebody in the comments will, but Oberman hangs, maybe. I don't know why that name sticks out to my head. Nonetheless, I'm probably close, but I'm probably also far off. These were like sub-max hangboard hangs. And the idea was to strengthen some of the tendons, ligaments, right, and muscles throughout the forearm, and particularly in the elbow, which is so susceptible for climbers, right? And I would know this, right? I went out climbing maybe 2 weeks ago. I've been lifting, right? I'm getting after it. Your boy's been getting after it. Nonetheless, where I found most of my soreness here, certainly in the elbows, right? So this is all very much applicable to that. But he was talking about these long duration sub-max isometrics, right? And so why wouldn't we try to add these things in? Why wouldn't we try to do some isometric work prior to the exercise? Toss them in during your warm-up or use them as a finisher after strength work 2 to 3 times a week is plenty, right? And we see coaches all across the country utilizing isometrics as well. So that's something I'm thinking when I was like, dog, if your foot is hurting, what are you doing in preparation for your runs to help build a load tolerance for the amount of both eccentric and concentric contractions that you're going to get, or actions that you're going to get during every gait and every switch of your run? That's the sip. I'm sure my microphone probably picked that up. So nonetheless, isos, tempos, eccentrics, slow eccentrics again. Although it was really interesting in that podcast because Keith looked at eccentric work, which is the common adage of like I think a commonly accepted protocol for a lot of PTs is like, let's go heavy eccentric work for any type of tendinopathy, right? And I don't think that's wrong, 4 to 5 second eccentric look, but he was talking about how isometrics were way superior to eccentrics. And I was like, ooh, this is interesting. He also talked about blood flow restriction, which is even cooler because we got the Hydro shorts. Boy, we have a lot of BFR technologies. The BFR cuffs through VOD Performance. We have gosh, what does our athletic trainers have? But it's super cool. And we have a third tertiary BFR device through. Can't think of it. Oh no, it's off the top of my head. Nonetheless, combining ISOs, BFR, and long duration submax isometrics. Oh, get after it, right? So I was just thinking, like, why don't we prep before we load and we intensively load? And there's obviously the whole like ischemic preconditioning that actually happens, which prepares some of the tissues. I feel like there's some studies. Don't quote me exactly on it, PubMed, but I'm sure you can find it as far as ischemic preconditioning and rate of perceived pain, and how BFR ischemic preconditioning can actually lower subjective experiences of pain to exercise, which is one of the things, like, not so much this year, but the last year where we had an athlete that was sort of battling some tendonitis, is that she would do a BFR protocol prior to practice just to leverage that mechanism and that lever, so that when she actually went out into the court and practiced, the subjective rate of pain that she felt was actually much lower. So that's another novel use of BFR. So just building these things into your routine. You know, like athletes tape their ankles, they don't think anything about it. Athletes put their jerseys on, they don't think anything about it. Why not do some BFR? Why not do some isometrics, right? Build them into your warm-ups. Static split squats, single leg split squats. I mean, how many times do you warm up at practice where you can't go over to a scores table, or you can't go over to benches or seats on game day, or, you know, game day -2, -1, whatever it might be, kick up your back leg, go into a rear foot elevated split squat isometric hold, right? Add that into things. That would be pretty cool. Maybe the last thing I kind of want to talk about, because I think it's also in relation to number one, right? Too fast, too soon, ramp intensification process, just kind of exceeding the tolerance of what those tissues can handle. Two, being, okay, Adam, you've identified a problem, but give me some solutions to fix this. The utilization of isometrics, maybe in combination with BFR. Awesome, cool. Three, what can I eat? What can I consume? How can I change things nutritionally to help me, to help me be better, right? To mitigate for some of these things. And I think, again, don't sleep on your nutrition, right? It's what you eat and what you consume is a recovery multiplier. Man, I'm sniffling right now. I don't edit these videos either, really. I just kind of go off the top. So if it's not as fancy as I don't have a studio of editors that's like, hey, let's go ahead and edit all of this. So it's real. It's just off the cuff. It's off the top of the head. But food is super important. So let's just talk about it, right? We know that food directly impacts inflammation, collagen turnover, how sore you feel after training, all of those qualities, right? Your tendons, your joints, right? They don't just need protein. They actually need the right kind of recovery cocktail, if you will, environment, if you will. So it's, how do you get those things, right? You have to consume them. They don't naturally occur in our body. We don't manufacture and turn over collagen just naturally. We have to eat and consume nutrients to be able to do these things. And in doing so, we know there are foods and there are oils and there are seeds and nuts and what we consume that are both anti-inflammatory, inflammatory being, you know, like inflammation in our body sort of, I'm trying to put this as lay as possible. Our body recognizes whether it's a food or a foreign substance and attacks it, right? That's the sort of inflammation that happens, disturbing sort of the homeostasis of our body. There's foods that are anti-inflammatory that helps that environment. And then there's foods that are also pro-inflammatory that actually slows tissue recovery, right? And is more of a signaling mechanism that there is something wrong, disturbing the natural homeostasis of the human body. So we know that there are foods that are pro-inflammatory. So these things would be things like seed oils, right? We know that. Things that are fried or packaged snacks can be quite pro-inflammatory. We know that in excess, sugars and sodas and things like that, pro-inflammatory. We also know that like heavy alcohol consumption, not only is it bad for liver and toxins and things like that, but it's also quite pro-inflammatory as well. There are foods also that are anti-inflammatory. These are the good ones. These are the good guys, right? They help reduce soreness. They help aid in tissue recovery and healing and things like that. So things that are rich in omega-3s. So this is like your wild salmons. This is like sardines. Although there was a period in time I was actually eating sardines. Boy, what was the brand? I don't know. Wild something, but they're actually okay. Like I had a heart, like I'm not a big wild sardine or tuna fish fan, although I love a good salmon, cooked salmon, love it. But I don't know, it's just tough for me. But things like colorful fruits, vegetables, right? Those are all rich in micronutrients and antioxidants. Those things are all quite anti-inflammatory in nature. Olive oils, turmeric, ginger. This is why there's wellness and health companies that are, putting these in shakes and smoothies and things like that. From a collagen standpoint, things like bone broth, like essentially true just collagen, right? Plus vitamin C has shown some efficacy as far as leveraging that collagen and gelatin matrix. So especially post-training and pre-training, super great to get the right environment in our tissues, right? So the key for that nutritionally is just really just having some consistency with your nutrition is such a huge component to making your body feel better. You don't need to be perfect. You don't got to go out and like eat 100% perfectly every single day, 7 days a week, 365 times. But the trend line just needs to be towards eating healthy and eating better most of the time. And if you do that, right, like you'll be good, right? You'll be fine. So nonetheless, I don't know. I was thinking about these things this morning over my morning coffee, another break. And I thought I would just record a video. I thought I would just share some of this, right? So my 3 action steps for you off watching this video. Number 1, ease back in slower than what you think you need, especially if you're an older athlete, right? You're an aging athlete. Ease back in slower than what you think that you need to do, right? You are not 19. You are not the ultimate warrior anymore. Sorry to say this. You're not LeBron James. It takes time. Give yourself the time. Give yourself the grace. Give yourself the runway to do things the right way. And your body will thank you. That's number 1. 2, try to add in some tendon prep work to your warm-ups, to your cooldowns, or over the course of the week in preparatory for the actions that you think you're going to do. If you're going to go out and your buddy invited you to fly fish on Saturday and you haven't been casting, then maybe come Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're doing some isometric shoulder work. If you're going to go out and pick up basketball because you got invited to the church league team or something, maybe you're doing some wall sits and some split squat isos, right? So in preparatory for the actions in which you're going to use the large muscle groups or the dominant muscle group of said required biomechanical action, try to end up adding some isometrics to that region. That would be helpful. That'd be number 2. And then thirdly, audit your diet, audit what you're eating, try to reduce the junk, right? Try to reduce the pro-inflammatory foods. Try to support your recovery with eating more anti-inflammatory foods, and your body will triple thank you for doing those things, right? So maybe as a reminder to all of those things, a subset of that is that you're not trying to beat your younger self. You're just trying to build a better body and a better performance that allows you to keep training, keep doing the things you like to do for decades post-collegiate, right? So it's not about training soft. It's not about being a softer version of yourself. It's about being smart, right? Training hard, but also training smart. And if you're trying to get back in game shape, if you will, without having to sit out every few weeks with nagging pains, with, any of these things, these strategies will help you. I think they will really help build you back up and be in a position where you can stay on the field, stay on the court, or just do what your body loves to do and do what you love to do. So those are the things I was thinking about. Now, if you're like, Adam, I want to know more about some of this information, this is my invite, right? This is my invite to you to join what I have over here. This is the Former Athlete Society, FAS. It's my school community group. And in it is lessons, a community, questions and answers. There's a discussion board. There's a classroom. There's educational content. There's micro lessons. There's a bunch of resources that I have created and poured my heart and soul into to try to support this transitional period for a lot of people. And let me tell you what that transitional period is. You have structure, you have discipline, you have professionals all working with you during your college days. From the moment you're a freshman to the moment you're a grad transfer and you leave or whatever, you have had people pouring their entire professional life into supporting you, advocating for you, and creating a system that allows you to be successful. You graduate, and if you don't go on professional sports, you lose that. You lose that structure. And for a lot of people, they have to then rely on all of the content that their coaches or people have taught them. What happens if nobody taught you anything in college? What happens if your strength coach didn't share the why behind the training, why behind the recovery? What happens if your RD didn't share how to or why to or when to consume whatever? What happened if your sports psychologist didn't share the basic underlying principles or strategies of how to navigate self-doubt and self-talk and all of these applied sports psychology methodologies? What happened if your athletic trainer never explained how to recover from an ankle sprain or to mitigate for shoulder pains and strains, right? That's what the Former Athlete Society is about. It's about to explain the how, the why, the what, and the when to navigating your body now that you don't have coaches. You don't have athletic trainers. You don't have physical therapists. You don't have RDs. You don't have sports psychologists. And so I've tried to build this community to teach you these things in absence of having the structure of your collegiate program. So that's why I named it Former Athlete Society. It's a society of only college athletes. If you didn't play college athletics, this isn't for you. I'm sorry, but it's not. It's to support the college athlete and provide that sort of transitional period so that you can recapture your playing days and that body and performance that you had when you were an athlete, that elite mindset, into your professional days. If that sounds like something you're interested in, I invite you to head over to Former Athlete Society, right? This is my school community group. You can learn more about it at my website, adamringler.com/school, SKOOL, just like that, right there, bang. Or you could go over to school directly and you could sign up, SKOOL.com/former athlete. It's two different websites. One's more informational. The other one's is where you sign up and you join the community, right? The first 10 members of it get in absolutely free forever. After the 10th member, I'm going to flip the switch. We're going to turn it into a paid subscription site. It's going to cost X amount of money a month. And for every subsequent person that comes, they got to pay a membership. So it would behoove you to join quickly, because if you're the 11th person to join our community, this thing's being, you're paying for it. If you're the 10th, you're in for free forever. You get it, all the benefits as if you were a paying member. So check it out. You can find both of the resources. I'm sure there's a link down below in the description. If any of this material resonates with you, if you're learning anything from it, drop me a comment below. I want to hear about it. I want to hear what you're focusing on. Or jump over to our community and share it with everybody else. Share your wins, share your losses, share what you've learned in our school community group. As always, I'm Adam Ringler. I'm proud to bring you this information. And if it helps you, subscribe, like, comment, drop it into the video below. Appreciate you. Have a great one.